Welcome back to the 7 Leadership Secrets Learned from Lions, and we're looking at secret number 7, session number 8, and that is solution-focused outcomes. Solution-focused outcomes. How important it is for you and me to be solution-focused and not conflict or problem-focused, because what you focus on is what you get. What you focus on is what you get. And so we need to make sure that our focus is on the right thing, and that is about solving problems, solving solutions. Finding solutions and solving problems. So many people are very curious about the solution-focused thinking, and the term is very widely used around the world. And however, it's often misunderstood, and people don't really know what it is that they're doing when you talk about solution-focused approach. So what it really means and why it is so valuable to an organization is that the solution-focused practice has its roots deep in the restorative process, which values the simplicity of thinking and the language that is used, and it aims to discover all about what works in any given situation. So the solution-focused practice is actually all about what works. Very simple. Let's keep it as simple as that. What works. And so practically, what is something that is given to us in any situation with simplicity and practically, that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So as the name simply suggests, is that it's about being brief, and it's focusing on solutions and not focusing on the problem, and never focusing on the person. So when there is a problem, many experts spend a great deal of time thinking and talking and analyzing a whole lot of problems while the whole person is suffering, or the suffering continues to go on, and people are talking about all sorts of things instead of just being focused on how do we solve this particular problem. But it's a different school of thought, and one we are interested in. It says rather than focusing on what is wrong, rather than focusing on the problem, it's much more effective for us to talk about solutions, thus bringing a degree of realistic, reasonable relief as quickly as possible to any given situation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the word leaders, and I'm going to use it as an acronym, and to walk you through how we can handle conflict and how we can filter it through the process of being solution-focused rather than being problem-focused. So let's look at the acronym for leaders. And we're going to start with, obviously, the L. And the L is listen. How many times through this whole series, we've gone through the key principle of listening, and that is hearing is not necessarily listening. Most of us hear, but our minds start going off in a different direction, and we start thinking about other things we're actually not listening to listen for. And we need to make sure that this is what we're doing, that our approach is listening to the person's words that they're speaking, listening so that we can collect a whole lot of information. And as I said, listening to listen for the meaning within the content of what someone is listening to. So it takes us straight away to the E in leader, and that is empathy. Empathy. Most of us don't actually like to look at the other person's side because we want to prove a point with our side. So when we look at the word empathy, it's the ability to understand and share feelings with another person. So it's being very personal and very specific. So when we look at this, we would say you've walked in another person's shoes, whereas sympathy, on the other hand, is a feeling of sorrow. It's a feeling of pity for the distress of another person, showing compassion. So we don't want to go into sympathy. We want to go into empathy, because when we're in empathy, we have an ability. And it's something that we can learn, so that the approach that we're going to have is we endeavor to understand. We also imagine that what happens if that person in front of me is actually right? Maybe I'm not right, very hard for a lot of us to even comprehend that somebody else might be right. Some of you, and that's why you have to do relationship DIY, networking success, are just right all the time. But, try and listen to the other person's side, put yourself in their position, and see how you can actually grow yourself by learning something from someone else. So empathy is very important as a leader. If you want to be a leader, you have to express empathy and even sometimes believe that somebody else is right. Then, of course, the A is for assertive. Learn to be assertive. Assertive is a quality of being self-assured and confident without being aggressive. This is a very good learnable skill. We need to learn how to be assertive. And I really have seen many people that think that being all like a wimp is what I need to be. No, it's not. You can still learn to be assertive even if you're an introvert. And as an extrovert, you need to learn that it cannot be aggression and forcefulness that you bring on a person. We need to have that little bit of a system where we can make sure that, yes, I've got posture. Yes, I'm going to speak with confidence. And yes, I'm going to be self-assured. And I'm going to listen with empathy. Please do not put people down. We've spoken about this before. No sarcasm. We don't want any of that. Honesty. The approach that we've got here when wanting to be assertive is we need to learn to be honest. And if you're honest, truth goes a long way. Then you are able to make sure that you have that self-assured posture because you know you're telling the truth from your perspective. Be open and receptive. Show it in your body language. Don't come out fighting. Just be open and make sure that you're receptive to what the other person is saying. Be direct. Maintain the point of contact, and we're going to teach you how to do that just now. Please do not become submissive. When you're under stress and frustration, you will put off and just say, whatever, fine, whatever. That's a submissive attitude just because I just want that stress and tension to go away. Please don't become like that. And then on the other hand, try not to sabotage yourself. Try not to sabotage the team by being aggressive. The D is for depersonalized. I don't even know if there is really a word, but we're going to make it a word, depersonalized. And that's how it is. Depersonalize. When you depersonalize, our whole key principle here is address the situation and not the person. So important for us. Do not attack another person's character. Do not attack them as a person. Please make sure that when you're talking, the words that come out of your mouth do not belittle another individual and take them down. Always say, this is how I'm feeling. Please understand that. The approach here is do not blame. The moment you start blaming another person, the aggression comes from your side as well. And then you've got to prove a point. So be aware of that. Remember, I'm talking in the context here of a leader leading an organization, a leader leading a team of people, and how important it is in order for that team to be built and to go together. We really and truly need to make sure that we've got these quality skills. Approach. Remember, when you're addressing people, always look at the different points of view, make a note of the points of view. Please address the behavior, don't address the person. And then, of course, please, no form of abuse whatsoever. Just leave abuse out of it. If you can't do it, please do not have any solution-focused interactions when you're angry, because that's almost impossible. So we've done the L-E-A-D, and now we're at the other E, and that is for equality. Equality. Make sure equality says exactly what it is. Stay on the same level as a person. Be in a state of your thoughts being, we're equal in this situation. It's not I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you. And sometimes you can learn so much from other people, but we need to make sure that the status is right. You're not pulling your weight around, and make sure that you create opportunities where there's an equal conversation. And we're going to talk about that just now. Keep on the same level, never talk down to a person as a, well, excuse me, try and avoid that. Also, remember that having that element of equality is all about communication, and we've gone into a great deal of communication. Remember, when you talk down to a person, that's when you're sabotaging, because you're coming from an aggressive perspective, very much like the parent-child scenario. When you're talking up to a person, you're actually talking from a place of stress and submissiveness, and that's when you're the child and they're the parent. And we need to make sure that we are on the same level, that the assertiveness is adult to adult. And if you want to go and have a look at it, and we will cover it later on in a great more detail, and that is about the parent-adult-child relationships and how important it is for us to realize, when am I falling into a child stage, when am I falling into an adult stage, and when am I falling into a parent stage. And it's so important as leaders in massive organizations. If you want a big organization, you need to look at yourself as an equal situation, equal partnership with people, and not that you're better than people. People recognize it. Then the R is not for recognize. The R is actually for respect. Respect. Make sure that you respect people. And you know, I have a thing where if someone is using a word out of the context of the meaning of the actual word, it's so important for us, especially when you do your values exercise. Find the meaning, the root meaning of a word. You know, we so often use this particular word, respect, in a totally wrong context. So respect is actually the due regard for a feeling, wishes, or rights of another person. So you regard someone's feelings, you regard their wishes and their rights for someone else. So another one for respect is you respect a person for something they've done. You might not respect the person, but you respect what they've done and the value they've added. So please make sure that you're using the word respect. Like, you don't respect me. Well, that's totally out of the wrong context. What have you done to deserve respect? So please understand that. Sorry about that. I couldn't resist it. Remember, be mutual with respect. No one's better than the other person, and no one's worse than the other person. We're all human beings. We all have a belly button. So when speaking to each other, learn to speak with respect. Communicate with respect. Please understand that we must listen to all those different points of views. This is a form of respect. How can I show respect? Remember the word pride, P-R-I-D-E. P is be polite, R is respect, I is show interest, and D is delight, celebrate, and E is efficient. What do you do well? Celebrate the other person. So remember the word acronym pride. Now the S is all about solutions. Solutions. And we need to understand that we need to get solutions from all sides, because someone else's perspective is their reality. Your perspective is your reality. So therefore, we need to bring the two perspectives together in order to perhaps find a new reality that we want in our team and our organization, or we just really do need to see it from another side. So remember, the approach here is, I've spoken about it if you go and find my clip on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey puts it very nicely, and it is the habit of a win-win situation. But for myself, I believe that we need to have 3 wins. There's no such thing as you win and I win. The situation also needs to win. So there's no right and wrong. We need to come together. And, you know, sometimes you have to agree to disagree. Sometimes there is no solution to something, and your perspective is right, my perspective is right, and hey, we just sometimes just have to resolve it that way. And I do remember early on in our marriage, we actually I had to teach my husband for the very first time in his whole life that he had to actually learn to agree to disagree. And it was a cultural thing. I come from a very English background. He comes from a very Afrikaans background. And so for him, when you make porridge, it was this tough porridge that you put gravy on. But as English people, it was a lovely liquid type thing that you put sugar and you put a bit of butter on and you eat it with a spoon. And it was like, you want me to make what? You want to put gravy on your porridge? And then we had to realize that we had to agree to disagree. Either way, it was porridge, all right? So please, sometimes we just have to understand that the solution might not just be right, yes or no, right or wrong. So please understand that. Let's look now at when you're negotiating, how do you make sure you negotiate for a solution? Negotiate for a solution. most of us don't negotiate for a solution. Most of us negotiate for ourselves. So when you're negotiating and you're wanting to find a solution, find common ground. That's the first thing that you're going to do, is where's the common ground? And I'm going to teach you just now exactly how the best way to find a common ground is. Always remember there's a give and a take situation that's happening between the two of you. When you're giving up, don't do it resentfully. In other words, you might be giving in, you're not necessarily giving up. Remember now, when it's your turn to take, please don't take by damaging the other person. In other words, you don't want to belittle them in any way whatsoever, and make sure that you're taking some really good steps from the solution. So please make sure that you remain solution focused at all times. And I love this group of lions here. Here they are, being so solution focused. I mean, that is all about succession planning. That is all about the team. That is all about making sure that everybody's moving forward. And as I've said before, we're either united or we're divided. And which one are we? So here we have a look at, well, the divided is going to bring a fight, and those claws are going to come out. So those are the two lionesses really divided in that situation. But whereas if we look here, this is what united looks like. This is the team that we have walking together collectively and walking in the same direction. So let's look at a little bit of practical ways that we could negotiate and make sure that we are actually in the right direction. So I'm going to now teach you how to fight. I'm going to teach you how to have a really good fight. And this fight is not bringing out the gloves. We're going to have some very basic principles that we're going to live by as we go through this. And the first one is the F is very simple. When you're in any form of conflict, or you are negotiating for a solution-focused entity, make sure that you face each other. You cannot disagree, or you cannot have interactions when people are not facing each other and we're in different rooms and we're shouting at each other. Please avoid that. It just really does not work. Then this is very important, the I. The I is for isolate the issue. Please, for any of those people out of there that remember on the 5th of January in 1929, you said this, 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 and this, and you have a whole ledger of what everybody has done wrong or the person has done wrong. You know what? You cannot bring that into a solution-focused entity, and you will never win any form of solution-focused therapy if you are going to not isolate the issue. It has to be one issue at a time, and I will teach you how to do that shortly. G is for guard your tongue. Guard your tongue. In other words, no abusiveness whatsoever, please. We're not going to belittle another person, and we're not going to say nasty things about another person. And this one here goes along with isolate the issue, and the H is for T. Tune in with empathy. We've spoken about empathy and how important it is that you need to tune in with empathy. If you can't do that, then don't enter into any form of disagreement or problem solving that you want to work on. Then, of course, the S is at all times, please remain solution focused. Solution focused. So let's just go through that again. We must make sure that F is for face each other. I, isolate the issue. G, guard your tongue. H, hold your history. T is tune in with empathy. And S is remain solution focused. So that's very important for us when we are having a really good fight. So now I've taught you how to have a good fight. So I love the fact that we can actually have things that we can do now. How do we isolate the issue? Because that is actually the problem with most people, is we don't know how to isolate the issue. So we're going to teach you now, how do we resolve things? And we call it the glass on the table principle. We always have a glass on the table and we're ready. Bring it on. Let's talk about it. And so have your glass on the table, have your pen and your paper ready, because that's how we make sure. Remember earlier on I said it's about finding a common ground. And you and I cannot enter into any form of discussion if we don't know what the common ground is. So let's start with the common ground. And so what we do is we say, all right, let's agree first on what we're going to talk about. And once you've agreed on the entity, you say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about. So I'll just use a random thing that we would have often in our household is one child. I'm sorry to bring a parenting story into here, but let's say, well, let's bring a work situation in. You now have both got the same prospect. And whose prospect is it? So what we've got to do is, we can't bring in a whole lot of history with regards to, oh, but you always do this. No, let's talk about this particular prospect. So what we're going to do is, let's say the prospect's name is Johnny. So we're going to say, we're only going to talk about Johnny and what is best for Johnny, not for you and not for me. And do we agree with that ultimately, that that's the right thing? So we say Johnny and what is best for Johnny. Then we put that into the glass and we make sure we both can see it. This is what we're going to discuss. We're not discussing Mary. We're not discussing anybody else except Johnny and what is best for Johnny. So please, and that's so easy. So we agree on the issue, we write it on a piece of paper and we put it into the glass. Now what's nice is I put this away from me and you, and it's in the center of us. So we're removing it from us and we're now focusing on Johnny. You see, it's no longer focusing on you and me, it's focusing on the issue. Now, when we do that, we focus on the person, or we focus on, so we're not focusing on us as individuals, but we're focusing on the actual issue itself. And that remains isolated because we cannot move forward unless we resolve that specific issue. And it's a lovely, easy way. Do it at your home, do it around with your children. It's extremely, extremely effective. And especially because you come to a common ground right from the very beginning. Now, when you and I are under very emotional situations, sometimes I've said it many times before, you've got to send yourself to the room. And we've come up with a very simple solution to help you to send yourself to the room. And that is as simple as this. It is stop, grab, think, resolve. You cannot go into the solution-focused entity unless you've learned to resolve. Or put it this way, get your emotions under control. So the moment you find that you are emotionally fighting, stop. Stop, do not say another word, and go and get yourself calm, even if it means you're going to send yourself to the room. Remove yourself. And then when you've removed yourself, grab onto who you are as an individual, what your values are, what you stand for, and why this situation got heated and out of hand. And then you're going to sit down and think, what kind of solution could I have? Where would I like to see this? What is my perspective on this particular situation before I go and enter into a discussion and a conversation with regards to this? And that way, I'm able to ask you for your suggestions. You're able to ask me, and now we become solution focused. So when we come to resolve, and we can shake hands, we're looking at that win-win-win situation, and we remain solution focused, and we're not fighting with each other. Very simple process. So click on the link below, get the worksheets, look at the worksheet from leader, go through all those entities, make sure that you're a leader, look at the FIGHTS principle again, remember it and apply it. Glass on the table, you're going to have a look at the principles for the glass on the table, then remember it's stop, grab, think, resolve. And when you do that, you're able to remain solution focused in all entities of your life and in your work situation as well. So as leaders, remember, we need to be in a positive environment in order to remain solution focused. And so if you've got some conflict situations that you're entertaining or there's happening in your team, you know what? Write to us below, send us your scenarios, and you know what? Maybe we might have to get onto a Skype session and help you to work through this particular process. And my husband is a global international solution-focused therapist, and we are gladly there to assist you in your team. So get onto the link, make sure that you are part of our community and we're all walking together and not away from each other. And we are able to make sure that we have teams, and I love this quote, and I'm just going to end with it again, of Henry Ford: coming together is a beginning, keeping together is a process, working together is success. So session number 9, I look forward to that soon, and let's just wrap this one up. This is Dr. Michelle van Tonder signing off. Thank you.